What if I told you that the very thing we value most, reason, might actually be making us weaker? It sounds absurd, right? But what if logical thinking isn't always the solution? What if, instead, it's the problem? Have you ever noticed that the more you analyze a decision, the harder it becomes to make? Science confirms this. Excessive rationalization can lead to analysis paralysis. And this isn't just philosophy, it's a neuroscientific fact. A study from Columbia University, led by Sheena Iyengar and Mark Lepper, found that when people face too many options and overthink, they actually make worse decisions. Instead of helping us, excessive thinking breeds doubt, fear of failure, and ultimately, hesitation. Nietzsche saw this long before neuroscience did. He believed that the obsession with reason started with Socrates. Before him, people simply lived, acting with instinct and confidence, without needing to justify every step. But then, everything changed. Doubt replaced certainty, and reason became a tyrant. How did this happen? And what did it cost us? Before Socrates, the Greeks didn't need long-winded justifications to act. Life was guided by arete, a concept that meant excellence and virtue, not through rational arguments, but through action itself. A warrior didn't hesitate before battle. A leader didn't question his authority. They trusted their instincts, just as naturally as breathing. Modern science supports this. Psychologist Gerd Gigerenzer found that intuition isn't just a gut feeling, but a highly sophisticated process. Studies show that in fields like sports and finance, quick, intuitive decisions often outperform long, overanalyzed choices. That's because intuition processes massive amounts of information unconsciously, much faster than rational thought ever could. The ancient Greeks understood this. Doubt wasn't a virtue, it was a sign of weakness. But everything changed when Socrates appeared and asked a question that would shake Greek culture to its core. Why? From that moment on, action alone was no longer enough. Every decision needed to be justified, and instinct was no longer trusted. That shift had far-reaching consequences. Socrates arrived like a storm in Greek thought. Instead of accepting life as it was, he questioned everything. He roamed the streets of Athens, challenging leaders, warriors, and everyday citizens, dismantling their certainties with uncomfortable questions. What is justice? What is virtue? How do you know your beliefs are true? But here's the catch. He never gave answers. He only planted doubt. This strategy seemed like an intellectual victory. Socrates always made others stumble over their own contradictions, but Nietzsche saw it differently. Socrates wasn't seeking truth. He was disarming those who relied on their instincts. His method didn't create new foundations. It simply tore down existing ones. Reason, once a tool, became a tyrant that demanded explanations for everything. The impact of this wasn't just philosophical. It reshaped Western culture. Suddenly, acting without justification seemed like a mistake. But at what cost? Over-rationalization didn't make people freer. It trapped them in endless doubt and hesitation. And as history moved forward, this problem only deepened. Excessive rationalization doesn't just make us insecure, it can be fatal. Imagine a warrior on the battlefield. If he hesitates, analyzing all possible moves before acting, he's already dead. Intuition, which could have saved him, is drowned out by doubt. This isn't just an ancient metaphor, it happens every day in modern life, in the decisions we struggle to make. A Harvard Business Review study found that the most effective leaders make decisions quickly, relying on instinct. Those who overanalyze often fail. Not because they lack intelligence, but because hesitation itself is the real enemy. This aligns perfectly with Nietzsche's critique of Socrates. By turning doubt into a way of life, he created a world where overthinking became the norm, but instead of helping, it paralyzes us. Neuroscientist Daniel Kahneman explains that our brain has two thinking systems, One fast, intuitive, and efficient, and another slow, analytical, and cautious. When the second system dominates, we get stuck in loops of indecision. Socratic thinking trained us to distrust the first system, making us weaker. But this mental fragility isn't just an accident, it's tied to something even deeper, the morality that took over Western civilization. Nietzsche saw that the hesitation caused by excessive reason wasn't just an intellectual issue, it reflected a deeper shift in morality. He identified two fundamental moral systems, the morality of masters and the morality of the resentful. The first belonged to the ancient Greeks, strong, assertive, and self-affirming. The second emerged as a reaction from those who lacked power, flipping values upside down to justify their weakness. A perfect example of this shift is found in the Melian dialogue, recorded by Thucydides during the Peloponnesian War. Athens, at the peak of its power, demanded that the small island of Melos submit to its rule. The Athenians didn't justify their actions with morality or fairness. They simply stated, "The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must." The Melians, on the other hand, appealed to justice, divine intervention, and morality. But their arguments didn't matter. Athens crushed them. To Nietzsche, this straightforward mindset of the Athenians reflected the morality of masters. They acted without hesitation. But with Socrates, this confidence began to crumble. Doubt started to eat away at certainty, and the morality of the resentful, based on denying strength, began to spread. But what does this mean for us today? The morality of the resentful didn't stay in the past. It shaped religions, political ideologies, and even how we think about science and progress. Nietzsche argued that Christianity took this morality to the extreme, glorifying weakness and submission. But even after Christian morality weakened, its influence lived on in new forms, pushing the idea that the strong must justify themselves to the weak. A modern example of this is the obsession with rational explanations. Science, which was meant to be a tool, has become a dogma. Think of Sheldon Cooper from the Big Bang Theory, a genius yet completely disconnected from human experience. To him, only what can be scientifically proven has value, a reflection of reason becoming a tyrant. This need for external validation traps us. Instead of acting, we hesitate. Instead of creating, we criticize. Instead of trusting intuition, we demand proof. Nietzsche saw this as a sign of cultural decay. The morality of the resentful didn't just invert values, it made us forget that we can live without endlessly justifying every step. But is there a way out of this cycle? If the morality of the resentful traps us in hesitation and endless justifications, how do we break free? Nietzsche believed the answer was affirming life. Instead of constantly reacting and explaining, we should act with confidence and spontaneity. In other words, we need to reclaim the morality of masters, not to dominate others, but to live without seeking external approval. Neuroscience suggests something similar. Research by Richard Davidson shows that practices like meditation strengthen the limbic system, the brain's center for emotional and instinctive responses. This means we can retrain ourselves to trust our intuition. Art also plays a key role. Rather than overanalyzing life, we should immerse ourselves in it. Studies show that exposure to music and visual arts activates brain regions linked to creativity and joy, reducing the anxiety caused by overthinking. Nietzsche didn't argue that we should abandon reason, but that we should use it as a tool, not as a master. Life doesn't need to be an endless argument. It can simply be lived. But to achieve this, we must free ourselves from the cycle of justifications and reconnect with our own will. So back to our original question, has reason made us weaker? If we look at history, the answer seems to be yes. Socratic thinking pulled us away from instinct and trapped us in endless doubt. The problem wasn't reason itself, but how it became a dogma, suffocating intuition and making us hesitant. Nietzsche saw this as a sign of cultural decay. A world that doubts too much ends up paralyzed. But we don't have to remain prisoners of this model. We can reclaim the confidence of the morality of masters, act without fear, and create without needing validation. This doesn't mean being reckless or irrational. It means balancing reason with instinct. Studies show that history's greatest innovators trusted both analysis and intuition to make breakthroughs. Now ask yourself, are you living by the morality of masters or the morality of the resentful? Do you act or just react? Do you create or just criticize? In the end, Nietzsche challenges us to stop searching for justifications and simply affirm life. If this idea resonated with you, drop a comment below. And of course, subscribe for more content that challenges conventional thinking.